Hello, hello. Testing. How do we look?
Can you hear me?
Can hear you.
All right.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Do we look the same size? We do. Zoomed in relatively equally.
My hair is, yeah. Christina told me that hair is antennas.
Oh, yeah.
So she's like, you should grow your hair out. And I'm like, yeah, right. And then I went and got my hair cut the other day. And I'm like, why don't you leave it a little longer than normal? Fuck. She always gets me.
Well, you got a lot of antenna right here.
I know. But, then I had this vision of long gray hair with a long beard. And I'm like, I could probably rock that.
Yeah. I feel like someday that's what I'm going to look like because
Yeah.
I'm just going to quit caring.
Yeah. And it's going to be...
like, I don't want to shave. I don't want to cut.
It's an aging beauty.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an authentic look.
Yeah.
Like, however your hair and beard ends up looking, is this how you look? I mean, back in the day, they didn't groom themselves that much, right?
No, are we recording?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think that's we're taught and trained that you got to keep yourself clean and looking.
And get a haircut like everyone else.
Yeah.
All right. It's kind of funny.
I have tried to grow my hair out in the past, and when I was young, and it was really curly. And, I remember in high school, Joy, good friend of mine, used to call me Muffin Top because my hair would come down. And
Trying to picture that look on you. I don't remember.
It was probably freshman or sophomore year. It was really, we're going way back. You don't like your matcha? Not enough hot honey.
What's that sound? Did you hear that?
That was you going,
Oh, that's weird. I didn't know I was making a sound. They thought it was someone else.
Oh, we're off to a great start.
Yeah. So we're talking about, we're not here to talk about what our hair looked like in high school. But might be your antenna, right?
Yeah. No, we're here to talk about
Men's group.
Yeah.
How does that? So I don't know. Where do we start?
I think we already started. I think that's the funny thing is, when you talk about
men are supposed to all look alike.
Yeah, you got to keep your hair clean, and
Yeah.
you got to be clean shaven, and you got to,
Or you got to have a beard, like whatever the trend is.
current trend, yeah,
Yeah.
trying to fit the mold
Mhm.
that society puts out there for us,
Mhm.
which is ever changing, right?
Yeah.
But
Who would you be if you were the only person in the world? I love asking that question or pondering it. Like, it's like kind of a mind fuck to think about.
it is because
But
we've all been. We talk about this all the time.
conditioned.
Yeah, we talk about it all the time. Where you're only your true self the moment you're born. So, who would you be? I don't know.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be conditioned. That's a fun little way to look at it because you wouldn't be conditioned.
Well, how do you not get conditioned? You just stay in a incubator your whole life. That's part of life is getting conditioned, right?
Well, you said if you were the only one on Earth,
Yeah, I know.
then you'd be
Where'd you come
conditioning
from?
you'd be conditioning yourself.
What do you do? So bored.
Right?
I'm lonely.
Chop a lot of wood.
Is anybody out there? Yeah.
Can't be the only one here. This is miserable. Anyway,
I think that's what you'd do if you were the only one. You
I
would
would
just
chop
keep
a-
looking.
and I'd chop a lot of wood too. What would you chop? Well, whatever. Boy, we're going down a weird rabbit
Chop
hole.
wood to stay warm because they don't want to freeze. Well, they're assuming that you live in somewhere that you need a fire. Well, you need to cook.
Yeah.
Well, maybe. Maybe you don't.
But if
Live in
there's
the
animals,
Caribbean and just
if
eat
there's
salads.
animals, then are they gonna? I don't know.
Yeah, you gotta.
Anyways, men's group.
Yes. So men's group is something that you and I discovered recently in based with the men's group out of Madison,
Yeah.
and we loved it, and so we saw the benefit in it, and we saw an opportunity, and kind of like almost like a calling or a duty to step up and serve Reedsburg by organizing our own.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. A duty. I mean, it does kind of.
You
feel
just
like,
said duty.
It does. I mean, it is. I do feel called, but I do feel like it is something we found, and I feel like we need to
Share.
Yeah, because I think it's something that we all need. So what is it? Right. I mean,
Well,
that's
it was hard to put your finger on. I remember leaving the first one. You drove, and
Yeah.
we were on our way home, and I was like, I couldn't put my finger on it. I'm like,
What
that,
just
that
happened?
was. I was a little nervous going into that. So just paraphrase. What we did is we met this men's group there's 12 of us, I think. 8 or 12.
Yeah,
It was
about
a
that.
relatively small group. We met at Devil's Lake. We had a little ceremony in Sacrament,
Yeah.
and then we took a hike on the trails at Devil's Lake, and we took turns switching partners, and we were prompted with things to talk about, even though the conversation usually deviated from that. But we got to know these strangers, and then wrapped it up at the end of the night, said goodbye, and on the way home I remember just thinking, what? I can't put my finger on it, but something felt really good about that. What was
Yeah.
it?
Yeah, I think. Well, we'll preface by saying that the questions or the topics that were given to us to discuss were deep, right? I mean, they were things that.
Yeah, there was discuss your purpose of life.
Right. I mean, yeah, they were deep. They're not your everyday.
How are the Packers doing?
Yeah, what do we call that? Your everyday
Small talk.
Small talk. Yeah, it wasn't small talk. It was, let's dive into some real life shit and talk about that. I recall one was talk about something that you have been avoiding doing.
Oh, yeah.
And you consciously know that you're avoiding doing it. Talk about that.
Talk about something that you know you need to do or you want to do, but
You've been avoiding
procrastinating it. And I forgot what mine was.
But
What was yours?
I don't know, probably something around financing, some type of finances.
Just manage my 401ks.
Well, diving into those sticky things that it could be as simple as calling somebody about an issue you're having at your house that you've been, little things like that. But those things
like
that
fixing the broken doorknob.
Yeah, something stupid, that as a man,
Well, I never thought about it that.
you feel like you should be able to do that, so you're too embarrassed to make that phone call to have somebody, like right now, for example.
Some guys.
I have a broken my toilet is stupid. The flange for my toilet at home, and maybe this will help me make the phone call. The flange for my toilet at home, I took the toilet off and I was going to re-caulk it and clean it. I thought I just needed to replace the wax seal. So I took it off.
What was it, leaking? Or?
No, it had this odor, and I'm like, okay, the wax seal's worn. I just need to replace the wax seal. So I took it off took the toilet off. I've done this before, not a big deal. Took the toilet off, scraped the old wax seal off,
New one.
found that the frickin' flange was cracked.
Oh, okay.
So
Flange
I'm like,
is the part in the floor that it holds.
yeah, that connects to the main tube and everything. And I'm not a plumber by any means. So then I went to True Value and I'm like, I'll just get a new flange, and thought it was going to be easy. And then I got back and I really, rather than evaluate it and then go to True Value, I went to True Value.
This is a universal part. It's going to plug right in.
I went to True Value and then I came back and then I started looking at it and I'm like, well, this isn't fucking plug and go. And I'm staring at it, and so then I called I called my cousin Travis, who knows all this shit, and he's like, "Yeah, you're gonna have to get in there, and you're gonna have to cut the tube, and then you're gonna have to put it." And I'm like, as soon as he said cut the tube, I was like, "This isn't for me." Like,
so you gotta call.
So I gotta call Top Tier and tell him to come take my toilet off and replace the flange, and I'm dreading it because it's one of those things where I feel like I should be able to do this.
Oh, hire a Top Tier. Watch him do it.
Watch him do it so that I never have to do it again. Because, right?
Or you could YouTube it. I mean, it's like, I don't know. Some of those things. With plumbing, I've probably felt okay diving into the deepest electrical.
What about the toilet, really. Too? I mean, that's scary.
Well, if I was in your position, I probably would. I don't know. I wouldn't want to. I hate that stuff sometimes.
You got to cut it out, then you got to put the new one in there, and
yeah.
My cousin's just like, that's easy. Just get in there, cut it out.
So we're guys. We're in this masculine thing where we think maybe it's false masculine where we think we need to be able to fix everything ourselves.
Yeah.
And we don't want to call and ask for help because I should be able to do that.
Yeah. I don't know if that's what.
But there's not a lot. A lot of guys are like, I'm not handy. I'm going to call.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean.
I think a men's group, understanding what it means to be a man, what society thinks it means to be a man, what we have been conditioned to think it means to be a man. I just don't think that's ever talked about. Like, men don't talk about that stuff.
Well, you got to be ready to talk because when you get a circle of men and you're like, what does it mean to be a man? What is true masculinity versus false masculinity? You're not going to have a bunch of people raising their hand having answers. Like,
no.
What are you going to say next?
Well, and that's the thing is because men don't typically talk.
Or think about that.
Men are really good at small talk. That's what men are really good at. But I feel like men
so
have.
Women.
Yeah, but I feel like men have been really conditioned to keep their emotions in.
Yeah.
And not talk about the things like what it means to be a man. Because if you start talking about what it means to be a man, you're kind of exposing yourself in a sense. At least that's how my brain works.
To be a man, it means you have a penis.
And what do you mean?
Testicles.
Yeah, what do you mean what it means to be a man? Yeah, I got the body parts to be a man. I don't cry. And I take care of my family. And I work.
Yep.
That's kind of the way we're brought up. I
work to provide for the family. I'm tough. I don't show my emotions. There's no crying in baseball.
Yeah.
I'm about sports.
Walk it off.
Competition.
Yeah.
And Zach brought this up. Like, it's common in a lot of men's circles, just natural men's circles. You go to a party at the country club. Let's say this new guy just moved to Reedsburg, and he comes to his first country club party. And he bought a house on the golf course, and he just got a big VIP job at the biggest local company, and he's about ready to make his acquaintance with the Reedsburg country clubbers. And he's going to go talk and meet with these other people. Hey, what's your name? What do you do? Where do you live? What do you do for a living? Well, I'm the CEO of this and that. Oh, well, I spent 10 years doing all the guys are sizing each other up.
Yeah.
And I think people in general.
Yeah.
But like, don't you remember the days of like going out and being single in the bars and how many girls, especially if you're going out in California, one of the first things they say, what do you do? What do you do for a living? I'm just sizing you up. I'm getting ready to judge you and make a call on, do you have bigger balls than I do? Do you have a bigger bank account than I do?
Right.
Like this whole comparison.
Well, that's the materialistic world we live in.
But to be
right?
cool at the same time, like you're sizing them up in a casual way where you, it's not that a bunch of these guys are meeting and trying to make each other feel bad. They're just,
Right.
they don't know what else to do. They're talking about themselves because that's what guys do when they meet.
You know, we've talked about this. I've talked about this with Christina, and it's, that's small talk, right? We talk about what do you do, because, and unintentionally, we make our work our life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's what defines us.
Yeah.
As soon as that's all you talk about, when you go to a bar, when you go to a social gathering, and when you first meet somebody, and that conversation starts with, so what do you do? And as soon as you start spitting out your job, that defines you as a person, right? And where Christina and I talk about that is, it's the question, it's one word. What do you like to do? Should be how we start conversations with people, you know? And that's because now you're starting to get into the true you, the true me, is when, and that's going to be a weird question. Could you imagine being at meeting somebody for the first time and them saying, what do you like to do? I'm not ready for that question. I'm ready for what do you do? I'm not ready for what do you like to do? Because that's how you should get to know somebody,
Mm-hmm.
right? Not by their job.
Yeah. What's the hobby that you don't have that you wish you did have?
Yeah.
Yeah. What were your hobbies as kids? Well, as a kid, what was your favorite things to do?
Yeah. I mean, if you could do anything right now, what would you like to do? You know,
That's hard to answer.
Not work, not work related. Like, sure, if it paid the bills at some point, that's awesome. But like, if you could do anything, like for me personally, I want to be an explorer. Like, I would love to find something that was never found before. And this goes back to my days of when I was a little kid wanting to be a paleontologist, because you have to associate a job with what you want to do. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to become a paleontologist because that's I think that's how I find things that have never
Maybe
been
you were
found
Lewis
before.
or Clark in a past life.
Maybe. But I truly think, like, I would love to go. Maybe that's why I poked you about wanting to do the Appalachian Trail, because Appalachian, I think it's called. I don't know.
Potato.
Yeah. I like to go, like, I see that as just getting lost, and going somewhere where very few or nobody has ever gone before is something that I feel drawn to.
Yeah. Well, what would be kind of cool is if, I don't know, we picked two different segments and then after, at the end of the thing is where we meet or something. Because Sasha was saying, I don't like this idea. You got to bring your phone and call me every night. I'm like, no, that's not that defeats the purpose. I want to go get lost. Not literally lost, but I want to walk on a trail alone, detached from everything. I said, maybe I will bring a charged up, shut off cell phone with me for an emergency. I'll wear an air tag on my backpack so you can see a beacon of where I am. And then
So she's still connected to you. You're not connected to her, but
yeah, and she was satisfied with that. She's like, okay, I would do that. And I wouldn't want to go for more than a week, but I would love to just go lose myself in the woods for a week. I mean, I'd do it deer hunting, but it's like for a few hours at a time, not
Right.
a week. And then, and then walk this way, walk that way. We meet in the middle. That would be a way we could do it together, but alone. If we were together, we would talk the whole time, and that defeats the purpose too.
yeah, you're right. Because reading that book, they walk all day by themselves.
Yeah.
But then they meet and they camp together.
I need to start reading that book.
Yeah.
A Walk in the Woods by
Bill Bryson.
Hmm.
I don't know. I got it in my bag, but I think Bill something. That sounds right. I don't know. We'll go with it.
So the name of the Reedsburg Men's Group is
Wild Heart Circle.
Wild Hearts.
Wild Hearts.
Wild
Yeah.
Hearts.
It's new.
Wild Heart Men's Circle.
Yeah. And I think it's, it's an outlet for men to be able to get together and have some of these deeper conversations, these more meaningful conversations. And it doesn't necessarily mean if you show up, you need to talk, 'cause
Right, and it doesn't have to be serious.
Right.
Like, we're going to meet with sincere intentions,
yeah.
but we're going to have fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think there's going to be, the goal is to learn. But yeah, there's going to be some events that, maybe we will spend an hour in deep discussion, where some people are talking and some people are just listening. But it's good to get into some of those longer, deeper, more thoughtful discussions. And then there's, maybe there's going to be some canoeing trips where just men get together. Because some men are good at planning those getaways. But I think a lot of times, we get into the routine of life and we forget that we need to be around other testosterone every once in a while, outside of work and outside of maybe the golf course or, things like that. And, so it's just
kind of a check-in to manhood outside of the cultural and social constraints, where we fit in like little boxes. So you can show up here and you can bowl and you can talk about golf and you can talk about the Packers, but don't bring up purpose of life because no one's going to want to hear it. It's just true. And like, if I was, I think it's different for everybody, but you're hesitant. You wouldn't even ask that question at a bowling thing.
No.
But at this circle, you're like, I got some deep thoughts once in a while. I kind of just want to throw this out there, or share some struggles that I'm having, or share some triumphs of like what I've witnessed has helped me. And so then someone speaks up and then someone else speaks up. Oh, I recognize that. I see. It's like I'm looking in a mirror. Here's what I did.
Yeah, I think you brought up a great point. And what I found amazing with some of the circles that we've sat in is you get to hear other people's struggles and realize that you're not alone sometimes. Because I think that's another issue we have as men is we always bury our struggles and we always bury those battles that are going. We don't talk about them. Well, when you do that, you feel isolated. You feel alone. So getting that out for other people to hear, not only does it help you by releasing that, but it helps others by hearing, holy shit, I'm not the only one that struggles with that.
Whether they speak up or not, they're
right.
just hearing, they're like, oh, yeah.
I'm not alone.
Yeah.
And that in itself is almost just as rewarding as the release. If you were the one talking and you were the one releasing, it's almost as rewarding to hear those reassuring words that I'm not alone, and even if it's a different issue altogether, to hear other men talk about struggles, I think is also reassuring, because sometimes in this world, we feel like we're the only ones struggling and everybody else. And yeah, of course, you can see that there's other people out there struggling, but sometimes it feels like you're the only one struggling. You get so stuck in this mindset that this isn't working.
You just feel alone if you feel that like maybe your feelings are like unjustified or like not worthy of even talking about, or you're being a baby if you talk about it. But B, like, who's going to want to hear it?
Right.
You go around complaining, especially to your significant other.
Yeah.
A lot of times it's like, Yeah, it's just not.
A lot of times your
Have
significant other
nowhere
wants
to
you to talk about that, but I know me personally, it's hard for me to.
Talk about guy issues. Yeah.
Yeah, the struggles, of feeling like you're not abundant enough, you're not providing enough. All those things, those things you tend to just bury them, ignore them, So I think it's, I like the men's group and just being able to talk about those things and get men together. And the other thing I found, which was amazing, is the men's circle that we were part of brought men from all different walks of life.
A lot of different ages,
demographics
of all kinds.
Yeah, and brought us all together. I mean, literally probably brought, in that one particular instance, 12 men together that 80% of them never would have crossed paths in the real world.
Right.
In the world we live in, never would have crossed paths, never would have engaged with each other, never would have, learned from each other. And it was such a amazing thing, to be sitting next to somebody who, you never would have had a conversation with that person. You could have sat down next to him at a bar and probably never would have engaged with him.
Or even if you did, it wouldn't have been about anything where you really got to know him.
Right. And we, after that first meeting, we came out of that meeting with contact information with people that we still are in communication with.
Oh yeah.
And some we see more than others, but it's just an interesting way to get to carry on with this crazy little life we have going on,
Yeah. Well, and then it's like when those relationships are born on that, in that context of 100% like honesty and openness,
vulnerability.
Well, and it's so if you fall in love with a guy, you have a man crush with this guy who's the greatest Packer fan you've ever met, the best partier, and it's like that's what you do together. That's how you met. That's what you talk about. Maybe things can go deeper as you get to know them later, but when you meet someone right off the bat on a deep level, talking about purpose and like think of Kyle. Like the questions he asked, he's like, "Have you ever thought of this?" He's like, "What's the difference between complacency and contentment, and how does comfort factor into both?" I'm like, oh my God. Like, I love the questions like that and people that have the time to put together a question like that. But like, that was a real thinker. And then we talked about it a lot. And like, I feel like I came up with a good answer.
Well, like you said, and if you start a relationship with a human being at a deep and vulnerable level, then everything else after that's easy.
Vulnerable is a weird word for me. Like when I hear the word vulnerable, like
like moist.
I picture like a naked girl kind of hiding in the corner, all scared. Like,
I think we found something you need to deal with, Gatlin.
Maybe, yeah. Well, why do I think that?
But you know what I mean, though.
Like, is the word.
I do.
What's another good word for vulnerable?
You want a different word for vulnerable?
Yeah. But say what you were going to say first. You think?
Well, I just think that if you get put in those in those conversations that you aren't comfortable in, rather than saying that you feel vulnerable in, I mean, it's the same thing, right? Feeling vulnerable and not being comfortable, yes, they're different, but they're kind of the same if you think about it.
I thought of another Kyle question.
What was that? Kyle's full of good questions.
He said, what's the difference between, what did he say? How do you tell the difference between being vulnerable and oversharing.
Being vulnerable and oversharing.
Yeah. And like, okay, so is that, to me, that kind of gives another new definition to vulnerability, where it's like, vulnerability means I'm just going to be 100% open and honest, and I'm not going to lie to myself, number one, but let alone the person I'm talking to. I'm not going to put on some tough guy suit
Right.
and be like, oh, it doesn't bother me, never has.
No.
Yeah, I don't think about that. Let's change the subject.
Oversharing, I feel like you that's when the ego takes over, and you just kind of you're oversharing, sure, but you're oversharing because you're big chested and oversharing sometimes, like,
Yeah, kind of like a story topper type of thing.
yeah, you want to talk about it. Being vulnerable, you're talking about shit that normally you would hold in, I think.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's kind of the way I look at it.
Way to look at that.
Yeah, like
definition.
overshares are people that are seeking attention, I guess, in a sense. Being vulnerable is you're opening yourself up rather than, I don't know. That's how I see it, man. Maybe.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good way to look at it. I see it that way too. You're being willing to share things you wouldn't normally share and be open. And to me, honesty. And it involves communication. How do you be vulnerable in the context we're talking about without there being another person involved? It's about sharing.
On a deep level.
Yeah.
You
So
know.
what's another word?
What's another word? I don't know.
Sharing.
Yeah, and I think that's where,
Sharing and honesty. Honest sharing.
yeah.
Truth or dare. That'd be a good game to play in a men's circle. Truth or dare. Because the dare is like the game aspect to it. Like, you make it fun. I dare you to go. This happened last night to Jack. His buddy, he lost $40 in poker, and his buddy said you can have your money back if you sit in the pond for 5 minutes.
Ooh,
So they cut a hole in the ice, and he did it.
5 minutes.
5
Well,
minutes.
after the first couple minutes, you go numb and you can't feel much.
He
But
said, so it took him like 30 seconds to find his breath. And
Yeah.
he finally found his breath, and he calmed down, and he said the last minute he could not stop shivering. It was just like,
5 minutes is a long time.
yeah, it is. 3 minutes is a long
Yeah.
Shit, 1 minute.
Oh, yeah. There's a sweet spot in there, I think. Yeah, like you said, it takes you 30 seconds to catch your breath, and then you got about 30 seconds to a minute where you can kind of roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that, it's just like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it, and that was one of the events at the men's circle, was a cold plunge.
Oh, they did
And
do
yeah.
a cold plunge, yeah.
And I think
That's it.
those are things that, at the end of the day, we want to try to explore things that kind of get you out of your comfort zone a little bit, and really build a community, because that's what we're looking for, is to build a community of men who feel comfortable around each other, who can talk about things outside of the small talk, and can share experiences, and that you can be comfortable with. So when you're having a shitty day, you have some other people that you can reach out to and communicate with and share with, so we don't bottle that shit up, because bottling that crap up is hard on your mental health, and it takes a toll, and you need support. And that's kind of what the goal is. And, we got a great group of men already in this area. But I envision it, I would love to run out of space, because so many men were looking for a support group. I mean, that's a dream, right? That's the goal, is to not have enough space to support all the men that want to be there, because we'll find space. We can always make more space, theoretically.
Got all the space in the world.
Yeah, we really do. I mean, so that's the goal, is to get it to the point where we got too many people. We need a bigger boat. But
Well, the point is really selfish. Everything is selfish if you think about it. Why do we care about anything? It all boils down to being selfish. Even selfless acts.
yeah,
I want to be selfless.
to make you feel good.
It's fucking selfish to want to be selfless.
Yeah, because it makes you feel good, right? I mean, but that's the thing is everything. We're only on this floating ball
Of flatness.
of flatness, right? Floating disc, whatever you want to call it, ball disc, for a very short period of time. I mean,
Blink of an eye.
this
One breath.
Earth has been around for billions of years, and we get a whopping
We get one breath.
whopping
that.
80 years out of the billions of years.
Who's we? Like these ego personas we live in. Yeah.
Yeah.
This body.
Right. So we're supposed to be here and doing everything in our power to make us feel good.
Yeah. We're supposed to figure it out.
Right. But we're supposed to, I mean, that's what you're supposed to be here to do is feel good, right?
Yeah.
And that's what we always are doing. That's what we do. You know, we make money so we can do things that make us feel good.
Yeah. We eat because we're hungry because it feels good
Because
to eat.
it feels good to eat.
We sleep because we're tired.
We make love because it feels good. You know, all these things we do because it feels good. And so us creating this men's circle, yeah, it feels good.
Well, that was the takeaway on their way home from Baraboo that first night. Like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you can put your finger on it. It felt good.
It felt
and
good.
that's what all the guys say in the group. Like when they share, they're like, "I really like coming here. Feels good. Makes me feel good. I like coming back."
Yeah,
they
exactly.
all come back, and it's
It doesn't matter why it makes you feel good.
right.
The fact is that it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
And that's, if anything we get out of this podcast, I hope that it reaches men and they can wrap their, give it a shot. Because if you don't like it and it doesn't feel good, then by all means, don't come back. Like, we're not here to make you not feel good. We're here to bring a group of people together. And if it feels right and it feels good, then come back as often as you want.
Yeah. It's only $10. Or is it 20?
I don't even think we had we didn't even put any money on it. Like, honestly, it's
Donation.
yeah.
I mean, we have to do this because you're a volunteer. I'm a volunteer. If there's going to be any sort of leadership and space holding,
Yeah.
if for it to be sustainable, you're a sustainable student or grad.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's only $10, everybody.
Yeah. And if you don't have $10, just show up.
Right.
Honestly, at the end of the day,
Yeah. You can wash our feet.
there's gonna be certain situations where we might, but I think if we can just get together and talk. Gatlin and I like to get together and talk anyways. So if you want to join in on some of those deep conversations and learn a little bit, hell, show up.
Yeah.
Because it makes us all feel good.
Did you ever email Zach in Idaho?
Yeah, I never got Idaho. I'll have to follow up with Idaho. But yeah, I've been adding people to the list and
Just resending the email.
and just send them a fresh copy. Yep. So as people come in, yeah,
Yeah. Cool. Any replies?
a couple. It's early. I'll send out another one probably in not next week, the following week.
Couple
I think.
weeks
yeah.
before.
Yeah, just a reminder. Couple. Got a few takers already, and I know.
Hey, it doesn't matter if it's 3 guys.
Right. Yeah. Right now we have enough for a circle.
Yeah.
I think you need more than 3, otherwise it's a triangle. Well,
4 would be a rectangle.
yeah. So 5. I think 5. But I think we have enough for a circle already. So
Well, 8 would be octagon. So we need a lot of guys. Well, we could call it the Sacred Sons.
well, have you ever
Sacred
seen
Sons octagon?
Have you ever seen the the visual of pi.
Wild Hearts. No.
3.14, blah, 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 blah,
Well,
blah,
it's a
blah,
circle, isn't it? Or is
Uh,
it the Fibonacci curve?
So it goes, and every time it looks like it's gonna connect where it started, it misses by nothing, and then it keeps going, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, it's gonna. Just kidding. It's pi never actually connects. It goes on infinitely, and that's where you can never make.
So there is no such thing as a circle.
a true circle. Although
I didn't
life
know
is
that.
nothing but a true circle, and that's the weird.
Yeah, it's the sacred geometry.
Yeah.
So
Google it. once.
pi is like Teague. One time, my brother memorized
3.14. I stopped at 1.4.
150 digits, and it was a
Yeah.
contest, but that number doesn't stop there; it keeps going.
No, it's an infinite.
Wow, that is a mind boggle. I don't know.
And that explains, since it carries on forever, that's why it never truly connects, because that number carries on. But yeah, Google it once. It's fun to watch. It's just a little blurb, and
there is no such thing as getting back to the beginning.
well, and that's life in general.
Right.
You never go back
So
to the beginning.
Pi can't be completed because there's no such thing as ever getting back to the start. It doesn't matter.
Right.
It's all about now.
Yeah.
Nothing ever happens tomorrow or in the past. It only happens right now.
Yeah. Think about that for a minute. That's a whole nother conversation that I would love to have with you, going deep into some of those rabbit holes of life and what we've learned what I've learned over the past, year or so, what you've learned over a few more years, but
Anytime, bro. That's what we're here for. That's why this desk was built, to have some good conversations.
fun conversations.
Yeah.
Cool.
45 minutes. 42 minutes.
That
It's
sounds
a good little commercial for I'll trim it down and make it, put some reels together for, God, I'm all big talk about this publishing podcasts and editing and making reels and all this stuff, but it's just all smoke right now 'cause